Just when you thought the U.S. government was in shutdown mode, well, two operations targeting high-profile Islamist radicals. And while the raid on a beachfront villa of a leader of Somalia's Al-Qaeda-linked insurgents may well have failed, operatives in Tripoli successful in grabbing one of the alleged plotters of the 1998 bombing of U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania. This time, no extrajudicial killing, drone strike, or secret CIA prison. Abu Anas al-Libi will now be sent to New York, where he's being formally indicted. But even though the Obama administration insists it's all, quote, legal, Libyans still complaining, calling it a kidnapping, with their government humiliated, they said, left out of the loop. Amid rising attacks against army and police, locals now fear a repeat of the September 11th, 2011 attacks by Islamist radicals in Libya's second city, Benghazi, the one that killed the U.S. ambassador there. And with local militias ignoring Tripoli's orders and putting the country's oil output under lock and key, whose job is it to prevent radicals from filling a power vacuum in a post-Gaddafi Libya? That's the topic today in the France 24 debate. With us from his home constituency of Kekla, 150 kilometers from the capital, independent member of the Libyan National Congress, Abdulaziz Ettaher. Welcome to the France 24 debate. Her upcoming book is entitled A Woman's War. Human rights attorney Céline Bardet, who's advised the Libyan government of late. Thank you for being with us. Also with us, former North African Bureau Director at the U.S. State Department, William Jordan. Welcome, sir. Welcome as well to Pierre CONESA, author of The Manufacturing of an Enemy, How to Kill with a Clean Conscience. Welcome back to the show, the France 24 debate, where you can join the conversation on Facebook and on Twitter, our hashtag F24debate. Before we dive into what's going on in Libya this Monday, let's hear what the latest news we have, which regarding that raid in Somalia. Sources list the Navy SEAL target of that pre-dawn raid on the town of Barawe as Abdulakir Mohammed Abdulakir, a Kenyan national, who, according to the Associated Press, is quoted in a Kenyan intelligence report as the mastermind of a failed plot last year to target the Parliament building and the United Nations headquarters in Nairobi. William Jordan, the timing of these two attacks are completely different, because in the one case, it's coming just on the heels of that siege at the Westgate Mall in Nairobi. In the other hand, it's somebody, there was a 13-year search for him.
I don't think there's anything specifically significant about the timing. I think it's possibly quite coincidental.
They both happened the same day?
I mean, the U.S. can walk and chew gum at the same time, or we can carry out these operations in different places. I mean, I think both of these operations were well planned quite a long time in advance, and were driven by immediate intelligence that indicated that now was the time to strike. So yeah, I mean, it's possible to do this. In fact, I would point out that a lot of what I understand took place in both of these raids involved tactics and units that were well trained and well experienced from operations that they would have undertaken in Iraq in particular, possibly also Afghanistan. So these guys are used to doing this stuff. They're used to doing it quickly, and they can be rolled out, and these operations can take place very fast. But it all depends on the intelligence that you have.
Pierre CONESA, you agree with coincidence that these two operations happen at the same time?
Yes, I do believe that it's not possible to decide the timetable from Washington. You decide when you know where the target is precisely, and the right time to do it. So if it was the same time, well, you do it at the same moment. But I don't think it's a coincidental moment, to decide to make a statement on the speaker. No, I think that probably the decision were local to decide when was the right time to do it.
All right. Of course, the two situations are completely different. Abu Anas al-Libi has been on an FBI most wanted list with a $5 million bounty on his head, again, for 13 years. More on his specific case with Stephen Carroll.
Reenacting the arrest of their father outside his home in Tripoli. According to Abu Anas al-Libi's sons, security cameras showed 4 cars pulling up outside early on Saturday as he was returning from morning prayers.
They broke the window and drugged him, and then they took him out of his car and put him in a white Mercedes.
Al-Libi had been on the FBI's most wanted list since 2001, with a bounty of $5 million for his capture. He's accused by the United States of plotting the 1998 bomb attacks on its embassies in Kenya and Tanzania, which killed more than 220 people. But his arrest was criticised by the Libyan Prime Minister, who called it a kidnapping. Al-Libi's son said the men who captured him looked Libyan and spoke with local accents, raising questions about how much the Tripoli government knew.
Of course it was an act of piracy by a foreign force to kidnap my brother. They should have submitted a document to the Libyan government and put my brother on trial here, like any Libyan citizen.
Washington has brushed off the criticism, with John Kerry saying they don't give details of operations like this to foreign governments.
He is a key Al-Qaeda figure, and he is a legal and an appropriate target for the U.S. military under the authorization of the use of military force passed in September of 2001.
Kerry says that Al-Libi will now have a chance to defend himself in a U.S. court.
Céline Bardet, a legal and appropriate target, says the U.S. Secretary of State. Do you agree?
Well, I don't know. You know, it makes me think of the extraordinary rendition, the CIA scandal that came out in 2006. I don't know. I don't want to pronounce myself on that. But, I mean, on one hand, I can understand that, you know, he's been there, I mean, in Libya for a long time, that nothing is happening, that at a point a government decide to intervene, but the way it was done, I don't know. I don't know to which extent there was a cooperation with Libya, they were aware and all this thing. But what I wanted to say is that on the other hand, the issue is Libya, the issue is the transitional government, and beside the issue on who knew and how it was done, we have to keep in mind that we are in a situation 1 year after revolution and that this government is not actually a government. They are trying to put themselves together and to work. And I think this is the most concerning issue because they don't have any control over their own security. They don't have any control of what is happening on their territory. And this is what it should be of concern for other states.
Abdulaziz Ettaher, there was a government statement saying that it had not been informed of the operation by the United States. Is that the case?
Yeah. Well, the government and also the National Congress, they have no idea about what happened, and this is one big issue. And according to my knowledge, the Congress, the government, the people, you know, they are so upset about this operation because nowadays, you know, of course, we do agree that Libya has to build up all the facilities, the institutions in Libya, but that doesn't mean that we are not capable to handle such an issue. So, I mean, what happened? It's really something frustrating. All the people, also the government and the Congress. So I mean, this operation, it's not right. Has nothing to be according to the making peace around the world.
So how should the U.S. have gone about it?
Well, this is a bigger question, of course. I mean, nowadays we are building up, I mean, the justice courts, and we are building up our institutions, and we know and we believe that the U.S. and European, almost the whole world, we are trying to build a good relation with. You know, this relation, it should be in a harmony, in agreement, and we should agree upon whatever. Even though if this guy who being accused for any case, we do appreciate that, but it should be such an agreement between our country, our government, our Congress, and our friends.
All right, William Jordan. Let me get William Jordan's reaction here. William, do you agree that the Libyan government should have been warned, or do you think that perhaps it was and it's not saying?
Both.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays, because as I said, our security not up to the level or to the standards we are looking for. But anyway, we have capabilities to deal with any case. But I mean, to hire some people or local people to help for such operation, actually, this is something not right, and this is something not clear upon our relations.
Let's pick up on that, Abdulaziz Ettaher. Yeah, he's referring there to the fact that it was a lot of reports saying it was men with Libyan accents who carried out the attack.
But we don't know what happened, and I think in the next few days, a bit more information may come out. I mean, Secretary Kerry was obviously being very careful not to say more than he felt he could in terms of the back and forth between Tripoli and Washington on this. Here's what I believe was going on. I believe that the U.S. Embassy and the U.S. government in general have been having conversations, very possibly through intelligence liaison channels, about this guy for some time. That the U.S. government does not, as a general rule, like to do this sort of thing unilaterally. It certainly does not like to undertake high-risk operations on the ground of this sort. We would prefer to be working with the law enforcement and legal mechanisms in any given country. As was said earlier, and I think as we were already getting into, the situation in Libya, however, is far from such that the United States could have confidence in either being able to keep this guy in custody were he arrested, or turned over to the United States to face charges if, in fact, he was arrested by the Libyans. Hence, what I believe happened was that there was an ongoing dialogue between the CIA and Libyan intelligence services, and there's a very strong liaison relationship, I believe, still between the CIA and Libyan intelligence. There was probably through that channel, because it would be considered the most secure by the U.S. government under the circumstances, some sort of an indication of our intense interest and possibly even information on exactly where this guy was. But when it came down to actually carrying out the operation, that was handled, I believe, entirely unilaterally in terms of the methods and the timing. What is interesting and what could have happened is that maybe the intelligence services in Libya cooperated and provided some of the personnel to be able to go in and do the actual snatch. But once he was grabbed, he was turned over to us or the United States and taken out that way.
All right, so there's general wariness. Of course, all this, Pierre CONESA, conjures up the memory of May 2012 and the capture and killing of Osama bin Laden in Pakistan, in the garrison town of Abbottabad. There, the Pakistanis clearly were not in the know of what happened. This is a different case, though, it seems.
Well, I think it's quite difficult to cooperate with the Secret Service in which you can't trust. I mean, the Secret Service of Pakistan, you know that everybody are suspecting them to cooperate with Islamists. And what about the Secret Service of Libya? I mean, they were mainly pro-Gaddafist guys. So in what state? You remember that the head of the former Secret Service is now in trial in Libya, and we are asking him to get back in France for the attempt against, the DC-10 terrorist attack. So I don't believe that today the government, which you describe, is having, Secret Service in which you can trust them to make such a sensitive operation.
I can respond to that. I mean, I agree with you. Seen from the outside, that would certainly be the case. But one of the top priorities, in my opinion, based on what I know from when I was in Washington, when we were reestablishing the relationship with the Gaddafi regime, and the fundamentally crucial role that the relationship with the intelligence services played in that. I believe, as much as I understand the way the CIA operates, is that they and the U.S. government as a whole would place the highest priority following the end of the Gaddafi regime on reestablishing in Libya partners of a similar stature and reliability to the ones that existed before. And I don't know to what extent you still have people who are in the ESO, the External Security Organization in Libya under Gaddafi, still in place. My guess is that a lot of the same people are still there, and that my guess is that the agency is putting a lot of money in investing in the training and in maintaining this relationship. I mean, again, I don't want to, believe me, I do not want to bring up Benghazi and the whole business there, but that CIA operation in Benghazi would not have been at all possible without the express support and cooperation of some kind of intelligence services on the ground. So I believe that there is some kind of an ongoing cooperative relationship happening. What is not clear, and what will possibly never be entirely clear, is the degree to which this was a combined or joint operation, or this is something done entirely with U.S. assets, or maybe even bringing in other people.
Yes, but you know, the main difference between CIA and the Libyan Secret Service is that, you know, on the Gaddafi period, they were in charge also to fight against these opponents who are now ruling the country. So it's quite difficult to say that these guys are able to cooperate, I mean, clearly, open-mindedly with Americans, because their life also.
Well, same thing in Tunisia. I mean, this is the problem throughout North Africa in particular,
yeah.
and around the region. I mean, as you have this Arab awakening and this bringing in of these Islamist forces, some of whom are closely associated, especially in Libya, with the very terrorists that we were concerned about previously. I mean, you're absolutely right. And hence, you know, I'm not entirely defending the policy, but I'm telling you that the mentality of the people in places like the CIA and in other places in Washington, parts of the Pentagon, parts of the counterterrorism community in general, are going to be looking for people who continue to maintain a commitment to the role of preserving security. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean, and we're seeing it every day, that you don't have ongoing tensions inside Libya between a lot of these groups, these extremist groups that are closely associated with Al-Qaeda and others. I mean, there's a tension.
Yes, yes.
Very, very briefly before we go to the break, Céline Bardet, you've heard the objections there of that Libyan lawmaker Abdulaziz Ettaher. You've heard what William Jordan had to say. Will there be a lasting impact on relations between Washington and Tripoli?
No, honestly, this I can't tell, but I found very interesting what Mr. Abdulaziz was saying, because I think we have to look at what will be the reaction of people, and I think we have to look at that from a broader perspective.
And we will pick up on that issue of the broader perspective when we come back, and the infighting that's taking place within Libya 2 years after the ouster of Muammar Gaddafi. Stay with us.